Hello friends, my name is Derek Skees. I'm the representative for House District 11 in the Flathead. It's my honor this legislative cycle in 2017 to bring an amendment to the Montana Constitution to define personhood. And if you want to find it online, it's LC 2429, and I'm going to place the amendment inside the Montana Constitution, Article 2, Section 17 under Due Process of Law. Due Process of Law has one section currently, and it says, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And this amendment proposes to add a Section 2, which would read, as used in this section, the word person applies to all numbers of the species Homo sapien at any stage of development, including the stage of fertilization or conception, regardless of age, health, level of function, or condition of dependency. Then there's a third section, a new one, is the legislature shall implement this section by the appropriate legislation. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to defend life, to basically say that life is sacred. We believe this in faith, and we'd like this to be reflected in Montana's law. And rather than just put it in statute where it requires the legislature to either repeal it or it's an easier path to change our plan, we're trying to put it in the Constitution directly so it's a more difficult process to change. That also has the added disadvantage that it's more difficult to actually get into law. I'm going to introduce this bill probably in about 2 weeks. Today is March 5th. And at that time frame, we have to go through the process of an amendment in the legislative session. And that process is we need 2/3 of both bodies, the House and the Senate. And we have 59 Republicans in the House and 32 Republicans in the Senate. And we need close to 100 votes to get this passed. If we do pass it out of the legislature, then it goes on the ballot for us to consider in 2018. And that just needs a simple majority of the citizens of Montana. So it's going to be an uphill fight. It's a glorious fight. We fought this a couple of years ago, and we continue to fight this every cycle. And it's my honor to carry it during this cycle. A lot of people ask me, well, Derek, what can I do to help? And that's the number one question. So right now, currently, all of our pro-life allies across Montana are sending thank you cards to the legislature, the folks that have voted for pro-life in the past, and sending thank you for being strong and serving Montana for those that are new in the cycle and haven't had a chance to vote. And that's an awesome technique. And so what I would suggest to you is to write to the legislator who represents you. There's a House and a Senate guy over wherever you live. And if you need help finding that out, you can contact Montana Legislative Services in Helena, and they can help you map it out. Contact those folks. Let them know your position. And I would suggest, remember, my friends, that we're testifying to God's greatness by our behavior. And so always, please always, have grace in what you do. Show that we're worthy of this goal for God by our behavior. And so show respect, show kindness, show love, engage them, tell them that you respect them, that you're happy they're there and they're serving us, and that you would love to see them support this incredible measure. Now, for the talking points on the measure is basically it's going to protect all life. From the moment of conception until the moment of natural death. And so once again, we've become the advocates for the most vulnerable in our communities. If you look at Europe and what's going on in some of the heavily socialist dominated countries like Sweden, they're actually aborting fetuses if they have Down syndrome or any of another group of indices that show a genetic problem for that child or that fetus. Another element, and especially if you look in Holland, there's more and more angles toward euthanasia and determining worth of an elderly citizen as being not worthy and seeking either physician-assisted suicide or euthanasia on that point. This amendment, once we pass it in Montana, would protect both of those spectrums from the very, very innocent in the womb until the same level of innocence in the elderly. And so I appreciate your efforts in this cause. I will be in touch with Dr. Annie Bukacek and the other members of the Pro-Life Coalition that we've set up as to when this bill will be there. We'll need proponents to come help us convince the legislators as to the benefit of this bill and why they should pass it. And you can continue to follow me in the legislative process to see how it goes through the process. It'll most likely go to House Judiciary for its first hearing, and then hopefully on to the House floor. And then if we could get it past the House floor, we'll send it over to the Senate, see if we can get it out of the Senate. So once again, contact your legislators, write letters to the editor supporting the idea, tell all of your friends to do the same. If we have an outpouring of faith-based support, I really think that this bill can pass and that we can change Montana's direction. Now, one last element. This bill has been fought and defeated in the past based on the assumption that once it gets, when it's in law, the lawyers will come and they'll challenge it in law, and it'll start to go through the process. And they were always worried that once it cleared the Ninth Circuit and got into the Supreme Court of the United States, that the Supreme Court in its makeup in the past would solidify the decisions of Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton. Now that we have a new potential makeup of the Supreme Court, notably with Gorsuch and hopefully two more in the next 2 to 4 years, the Supreme Court has changed. We have an administration now that's pro-life, and they're proud of it and they're happy for it. And so this seed change in D.C. is something we can capitalize in Montana. And let's push this amendment through the process, get it on Montana's Constitution, so that Montana can be the state that fights the Fed, that takes it to a new Supreme Court and overturns Roe v. Wade. I thank you, friends, for your support, and I praise God for the strength to deliver this message, and I hope you join us in the effort. Thank you.